Wednesday, January 24th. Now, in the winter of 1964, I started to become more solitary. I spent more time with myself or in nature. Like I'd walk along the Ramapo River when I was looking for muskrats. And I'd do this early in the morning. And I was walking along that crusty snowbank, and I started to sing these songs that were in the house at the time. My sister Terry had a monograph record player, and she played the soundtrack album to West Side Story. And I got to know all the songs because she literally wore that vinyl out, playing it over and over again. And she also played popular 45s like the Shirelles and Chubby Checker and Little Richard and records like that over again many times. And I just learned the words and the rhythms of the songs. I learned them too. And my sister Muffin had left some of her monograph albums behind at the house. And we listened to those as well. There was the Kingston Trio. That was one album that she had. And of course, Pete Seeger and this fellow named Bob Dylan. That record album was called Freewheelin' Bob Dylan, I think. And it had a song on it that asked a lot of questions. And then the answer was always blowing in the wind. And Dylan's voice was, well, it wasn't like surf music or like a doo-wop sound or even a pop sound. It was a voice that sounded kind of like he was singing while he was riding on the top of a boxcar across the Midwest, and he was just singing into the wind that was blowing. And then there were these four other guys. These four guys, they were English guys, and they had a song about wanting to hold your hand all the time. And I really didn't like their music when I first heard it, but it got in my head. I couldn't help it. It was just there. And so I sang that as well as I was walking along the shore. And well, there it was on Saturday night. My mom watched the Lawrence Welk show, and that didn't have any of the kind of songs or music that my sisters listened to or that I was starting to sing over in my head. But there was a show on Saturday night that was on earlier called The Clay Cole Show. And that was on earlier in the evening, just before Chiller Theater with Zachary. And Chiller Theater had all these B flicks, these monster movie films. And so I watched The Clay Cole Show just before I watched Chiller Theater. And it was dancing and singing. And actually, Clay Cole's guest list eventually became like a who's who of doo-wop or surf music or soul or folk music and rock and roll. He kind of had it all in the early 60s. So I'd watch those shows on Saturday night. And then Sunday morning, I'd go tromping along the Ramapo River shoreline, and I was singing to myself, Will You Love Me Tomorrow? Kind of a mashup of that and Blowing in the Wind and Officer Krupke from West Side Story. I'd kind of put the songs all together and we'd just be singing them along as I walked along the river, looking for muskrats. Yeah, well, we'll do another one tomorrow. See you then.